makes sense. A warning system.
Yeah.
But here's the tricky part, I think, and where a lot of us probably relate. When does that helpful alarm system become, well, unhelpful?
Exactly.
When does the response get bigger than the actual danger?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, isn't it? Between a normal stress response like maybe butterflies before a presentation
Sure, yeah.
and anxiety becoming this persistent issue. Sarah described it as that constantly racing mind, like a hamster wheel you just can't seem to jump off.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, it's often there even when things outside seem calm.
That really resonates. I think, well, most people have had those nights, haven't they? Where your brain just will not switch off even if you're exhausted. And Ali also brought up the physical side of it. It's not just like mental unease, is it?
No, not at all. She mentioned things like sweaty palms, that tightness in your chest, which can feel really quite alarming in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And even just struggling to take a proper full breath. It really highlights how anxiety isn't just a thought or a feeling. It's a whole body thing, a physiological response.
What's really interesting, though, and also maybe a bit sobering, is how both Ollie and Sarah talked about people masking it.
Hiding it.
Yeah, appearing totally fine. Handling work, social stuff, everything looks okay from the outside.
While inside, they're really wrestling with this intense feeling.
Right. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many people around us are going through something similar that we don't see.
It really does. It underscores how common it is, but also how isolating it can feel.
Yeah.
Especially if you feel you have to hide it.
Yeah.
Which then, leads to the question, what actually fuels this? What did Ollie and Sarah point to as potential causes?
Well, they touched on several key things, like the obvious pressures work, stress, studies, family stuff.
Sure, the tangible stressors.
Yeah. Yeah, those can definitely crank up the anxiety. And they also mentioned past experiences, things like past trauma, which can obviously leave a lasting mark.
Absolutely. And then, something very relevant right now.
Yeah.
They specifically discussed social media.
Oh, yeah. It's more than just a time waster, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
That constant scrolling, seeing everyone's highlight reels, it's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Comparing your own, messy, everyday
To
reality.
everyone else's perfectly curated online image.
Yeah.
It's like seeing only the best takes constantly.
Yeah, exactly. And that constant exposure, it really taps into that very human thing of social comparison.
Right.
And it often leaves you feeling like you're somehow falling short, even when, logically, that online picture isn't the whole story.
It just fuels that feeling that everyone else has it figured out except you.
Totally. And that connects to something else they brought up, the fear of judgment.
Ah, yes.
That worry about what other people might think if you, show you're vulnerable, if you admit you're struggling.
Yeah, it's like this invisible pressure to always seem like you've got it all together.
Which you can see how that creates a difficult cycle, right? That fear of judgment can stop people being open about their anxiety.
Which then makes them feel even more isolated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes it even harder to cope.
Okay, so we're getting a clearer picture of what anxiety is, some of the common factors feeding into it. But what about actually doing something? What about practical steps? Did Ollie and Sarah suggest things for managing it day to day?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
And some were surprisingly simple, but quite powerful strategies. One of the first was focusing on the breath, breath work.
Okay.
They mentioned a specific technique, inhaling slowly for 4 counts, holding for 4, and then a longer exhale for 6 seconds.
Right. 4-4-6.
Yeah, and repeating that for just a couple of minutes. There's actually a physiological reason that works.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that longer exhale. It can help activate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's natural rest and digest or calming system.
Huh. That's fascinating. So it's more than just, take a deep breath.
It is, yeah. It's quite specific. They also highlighted just moving your body, physical movement.
Right. And not necessarily like intense gym sessions.
No, not at all. Even gentle stuff. Going for a walk, doing some stretches, or just, putting on some music and moving around. Dancing even. Helps release that pent-up energy. And it can genuinely shift your mental state. Like a physical reset button for your brain.
I like that, a reset button. And then there's the simple act of, talking about it.
Yes, they really emphasize the value in sharing how you're feeling.
Yeah.
With trusted friends, family, or even just writing it down. Journaling.
Getting it out of your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes just verbalizing those anxieties can kind of diffuse their power a bit. It's like bringing them out into the light where you can look at them more objectively. And writing it down, that can give a sense of clarity, release, like offloading some of that mental weight.
They also touched on being mindful of what we're consuming, didn't they? Both like literally and figuratively.
Yes, limiting negative stimuli. So physically, that can mean reducing things like caffeine, which we know can worsen anxiety symptoms for some people.
Right, the jitters.
Yeah. And mentally, it means being more aware of how much time you spend plugged into negative news cycles or those endless social media feeds, what some call doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling. Yeah.
And also learning to say no, saying no to commitments that you know consistently drain your energy. That's a big part of it too.
That's a tough one, but important. And this next point really stood out to me. Routine, especially around sleep.
hmm Establishing regular sleep and wake times, it creates this sense of predictability, stability.
Okay.
And that can be incredibly grounding when your mind feels anxious. It signals to your system that things are, safe and predictable.
A bit of structure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, and this is so crucial, they really emphasize that seeking professional help, seeing a therapist, that's a sign of strength, not weakness.
Absolutely. It always bears repeating.
Definitely. Therapists are trained. They provide a safe, supportive space to explore where the anxiety is coming from and to develop more specific coping strategies. Think of it like having a skilled guide, helping you navigate those trickier inner waters.
Yeah, a guide. That's a good way to put it. So as we start to kind of wrap up this deep dive, let's maybe circle back directly to you listening right now. Ollie and Sarah had some really powerful, encouraging messages, things I think are worth holding on to.
They really did. They said, and this really struck me, you are not alone. You are not broken. And you are not your anxiety. Those are such strong reminders, aren't they? They really challenge that harsh, critical inner voice that often comes along with anxiety.
Definitely. And they also emphasize that you're human, you're on a journey, maybe one of healing, and that genuinely doing your best, whatever that looks like in the moment, that's enough.
Yeah. In a world that's always pushing for perfection, that's a really important message. It's okay to just be doing your best.
It really is.
And finally, that heartfelt point. You deserve peace. You deserve rest. You deserve to breathe freely again. Those are fundamental things, aren't they?
Right.
Basic human needs. And anxiety can often make them feel so far out of reach.
So just to recap our deep dive today, drawing from Ollie and Sarah's really insightful chat on Mind Talks, we've explored what anxiety is, at its core.
Looked at some of the common things that can fuel it. Work, social media, past stuff.
Right. And we've talked through some really actionable strategies you can start using. Breathing, moving, talking, routine.
Limiting the negative input and knowing when to reach out for professional help.
Yeah. If we kind of step back and look at the whole picture, what really stands out is, well, how common this experience of anxiety is.
It really is universal in many ways.
And also the real power there is in understanding it, both what it is and the practical steps we can actually take to manage it.
Knowledge and action.
Yeah. So here's maybe a final thought for you to take away from this discussion. Considering everything we've talked about, what's maybe one small, concrete step you could take today? Something inspired by these ideas to actively nurture your own sense of calm, your well-being.
Just one small thing. What might that look like for you?
It's often those small intentional actions, isn't it? They can really start to shift things.
Absolutely. They can begin to lead you towards finding a bit more peace.